All right, so to continue our chat about promises, I've copied the code from our original video in this series that just kind of discusses using jQuery's AJAX to you for asynchronous calls. And as we discussed, it kind of goes through this what callback hell. So where you kind of get this unwieldy kind of tree looking thing here that's just it's painful to read. So just go back over it. We're making an AJAX call that gets some address information from the Google Maps API, which then, once that succeeds, makes another AJAX call to get some more address information for the same address. That doesn't make any sense, but just kind of roll with it for now. So then, on that success, once again, it goes out and gets more information or the same information for the same address. Not focusing so much on the example, but the idea at hand. In real life, you are going to run into situations where you are going to need to get some information, and then based on whatever you get back from that information, you're going to need to go out and get more information, and then get more information, and then get more information, and more information, and before you know it, you've got a callback tree, whatever the hell you want to call it. It goes all the way out, it goes all the way back in, and it's hard to manage. So this is where promises can come in handy to help you resolve this. A lot of people don't know that in the latest version of jQuery, the get and post methods return promises. So I'm preparing for comments to say, why the hell are you still using jQuery? Why not pull in another library? And because I assume that most people watching this video are familiar with jQuery, but maybe not familiar with something like Axios. So to make the video as easy to digest as I can, I want to make sure that I use libraries that people are already familiar with. So to demonstrate and drive the points home, I'm going to make a variable here called address1. And I'm going to set that equal to jQuery's.get function. I can hear the gasping over the internet. Oh my god. And I'm going to set the URL I go to equal to the API URL from above. Once again, that is just the Google Maps API. Getting some address information about this address using my Google API key. And then I'm going to console.log address 1. Save. Now, notice I've moved on to promises2.html. If I open up promises2, you'll see I got an object back that doesn't specifically say I'm a promise, but you'll notice some things here. We've got a catch, we've got a promise, and down here we've got a then. So if reason stands to rhyme, or some kind of fucking thing people say, but you address1 dot then, pass in a function with a response. I'm going to console.log that response. And then I'm going to come back, my browser, refresh, and that should look familiar. We get a status OK with results for the address. Awesome. So let's say we need to do that again. Once we get a response back, we need to do something else with that, like we did down here. Instead of here, you might think, okay, I've got that back. Let's go ahead and put let address2 equal $.get API URL, and then address2 dot then, and what the hell am I doing result? function response console log response. As for fun, I'm going to go up here. Console log response. Save that. Back to my browser, refresh, and sure enough, it works just as we would expect. We get both of our responses back and both statuses are okay. One right before the other in sequential order, but running asynchronous. However, let's look at our code. We get address 1 then. Cool. And notice what we've got going on here. Now we've got our tree going again. So you might be thinking to yourself, why would we use promises over something like this? And that's because while you can do it this way, I'm not using promises correctly. So why am I showing you the wrong way? Because when I first started using promises, I've done it the wrong way. So I'm used to, okay, I'm going to do a recall, I'm going to assign it to a variable, then we're going to do some of that variable, then I'm going to do that, then we're going to do someone else, and someone else, and someone else. However, promises always return other promises. So instead of assigning this to a variable and then calling the then inside of this then, we can make this a lot prettier. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get rid of the let address 2 equals that, and I'm just going to return my API call. And then I can get rid of that. And a lot of times you'll see promises written out something like this. So address 1 dot then, and I'm going to beautify this real quick, and then passes in the function, so on and so forth. And then since we're returning a promise to the then, we can then just chain another dot to then call onto there. And if I could type today, this would be a much better video. And that's going to take a response, and then we're just going to console.log my response again. And actually, just to make this a little bit easier to understand, I'm going to change this to, hoping there's just 1700. Make another one of these. Beautify again, because Beautify is awesome. Save that, and I'm really hoping, once again, there's a 1700 Amphitheater Parkway in Mountain View, California. And then I'm going to make the second API call, go to API URL 2, save that. So just real quick recap. Address 1 is going to make a get recall out to this API. When that resolves from the promise, I'm going to run then, which is triggered via resolve, and console log the response. And then I know after that I need to run another AJAX call that is dependent on this. So I'm going to run it, but I'm going to return that value. And by returning that value to the then, I've returned another promise, which means I can then again. That's confusing. So either way, I wish I would stop popping up. By returning this to that, I can then do this again and get the response from this AJAX call. I know it was confusing, so hopefully standard action, that'll help. Let's go back to the front, refresh, we get OK, and we get OK. If we look at number 1, we get our response from 1600 Amphitheater Way. And now for response number 2, if there was a 1700 Amphitheater Way, which we got a results OK, we got it for 1700 Amphitheater Parkway. Awesome. So just to drive this home, I mean, first of all, you just look at this. This is so much easier to read than this. So what's nice about promises as well, this video is getting a little long, so I'll cut it short here, is remember up here we had to success, and then we ran through our success function. Then if we got an error, we had to run this error function for every single call. With promises, we can just do one error call for everything right on the end by chaining on our catch, which handles our reject. And then let's grab our error. And I think this might actually get, because we were using jQuery here, if we get an error, we get the XHR request, we might get a status and an error. So if I console.log status, we'll see if that comes back with anything. And also console.log our error. And to make this work, I'm just going to take the S off of map for the second call. Awesome. So hopefully we should fall into this catch. Can refresh. And we get our that is not right. So I think I might have lied to you. I think maybe the .ajax call might get all this, but I think .get doesn't really do all that. So we'll just go ahead and cancel out the error for that second call. Save that. Come back and refresh. There we go. There's what I was expecting. So if I look down in here, we get our status text that has, so we do console log status text. And then we just get error. So what's nice is you can do that for, it'll catch for any one of these. So I'm going to make the second one succeed and the first one fail. Refresh, and it still catches it. So that is where promises come back and make life exceptionally better.